Long before the United States became one of the world's most powerful nations, the land was home to millions of indigenous people. For thousands of years, Native American tribes built thriving civilizations across North America. They developed unique cultures, languages, governments, and trade networks. Tribes such as the Cherokee, Apache, Navajo, Sioux, and Iroquois adapted to different environments and lived from the forests, plains, deserts, and rivers. Their history stretched back thousands of years before any European explorer ever arrived. Everything began to change in 1492 when Christopher Columbus reached the Americas during his voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. Although Columbus never set foot in what is now the United States, his journey opened the door for European exploration and colonization. Soon, Spain, France, England, and the Netherlands competed to claim land and resources across North America. In 1607, England established its first permanent settlement at Jamestown, Virginia. Life was extremely difficult. Disease, hunger, and conflict claimed many lives during the colony's early years. Despite these hardships, Jamestown survived and became the foundation for future English settlements. Just over a decade later, in 1620, a group known as the Pilgrims arrived aboard the Mayflower. Seeking religious freedom, they established Plymouth Colony in present-day Massachusetts. Their determination and cooperation helped shape the early identity of the English colonies. Over the following decades, 13 British colonies grew along the eastern coast of North America. Agriculture, trade, and immigration fueled rapid growth. However, tensions with Britain increased as the British government imposed new taxes without giving the colonists representation in Parliament. Many believed this violated their rights as English citizens. The conflict reached a turning point in 1773 with the Boston Tea Party. Protesters, angry over British taxation, boarded ships in Boston Harbor and dumped hundreds of chests of tea into the water. The British government responded with harsh measures, which only united the colonies even further. In April 1775, fighting broke out between colonial militias and British soldiers, marking the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. Farmers, merchants, and ordinary citizens joined together in a struggle for independence. 1 year later, on July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. Written primarily by Thomas Jefferson, the document declared that all people are created equal and possess the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Revolutionary War lasted for several years. With determination, sacrifice, and crucial support from France, the American colonies ultimately defeated Britain. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris officially recognized the independence of the United States of America. A new nation had been born, setting the stage for one of the most remarkable political and economic stories in modern history. After gaining independence in 1783, the United States faced an enormous challenge. Winning the war was only the beginning. The new nation needed a stable government that could unite the former colonies while protecting the freedoms they had fought so hard to achieve. In 1787, representatives from the states gathered in Philadelphia to write a new constitution. This remarkable document established 3 separate branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial, to ensure that no single person or institution could hold too much power. The United States Constitution remains one of the oldest written constitutions still in use today. 2 years later, George Washington was elected as the nation's first president. His leadership helped build trust in the new government and set important traditions that future presidents would follow. Washington believed that the strength of the country depended on unity, responsibility, and respect for democratic institutions. During the early 1800s, the young nation expanded rapidly. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson completed the Louisiana Purchase, doubling the size of the United States almost overnight. Explorers Meriwether Lewis and William Clark were sent to map the newly acquired territory, opening the door for further settlement and exploration across the continent. As settlers moved westward, conflicts with Native American tribes increased. Many indigenous communities were forced from their ancestral lands through government policies and military action. One of the most tragic events was the Trail of Tears, during which thousands of Native Americans were removed from their homes under harsh conditions. Many lost their lives during the journey, leaving a painful chapter in American history that is still remembered today. At the same time, the nation's economy continued to grow. Factories, railroads, and new technologies transformed American society. However, another issue was becoming impossible to ignore: slavery. While slavery remained legal in many southern states, growing numbers of Americans believed it was morally wrong and should be abolished. This disagreement created deep political and social divisions across the country. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president. His victory alarmed many southern states, which feared that slavery would eventually be abolished. Soon after, several states declared their secession from the Union, leading to the outbreak of the American Civil War in 1861. The Civil War became the deadliest conflict in American history. Families were divided, cities were destroyed, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers lost their lives. In 1863, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring that enslaved people in the Confederate States were to be freed. Although the war continued for 2 more years, the proclamation transformed the conflict into a fight not only to preserve the Union, but also to end slavery. In 1865, the Union achieved victory, bringing the Civil War to an end. The 13th Amendment officially abolished slavery throughout the United States. Although the country remained deeply divided, the war preserved the Union and marked the beginning of a new era in the nation's history. America would now face the enormous challenge of rebuilding itself while striving to create a more united and equal society. Following the Civil War, the United States entered a period of rapid growth unlike anything it had experienced before. New railroads stretched across the continent, connecting distant cities and opening new opportunities for trade and settlement. Factories expanded, steel production increased, and industries transformed the American economy. Inventors such as Thomas Edison introduced groundbreaking technologies, including the electric light bulb, changing the way people lived and worked. As industries grew, millions of immigrants arrived from Europe and other parts of the world, hoping to build better lives. They found work in factories, mines, and construction projects, helping fuel America's economic expansion. Cities such as New York, Chicago, and Pittsburgh grew rapidly into major industrial centers. While many families achieved success, others faced difficult working conditions, low wages, and overcrowded neighborhoods. By the early 20th century, the United States had become one of the world's leading industrial powers. In 1914, World War I erupted in Europe. At first, America remained neutral, but in 1917, it entered the war alongside the Allied powers. American soldiers and resources played a significant role in helping bring the conflict to an end in 1918. The victory strengthened the nation's position on the world stage and marked the beginning of America's rise as a global power. The prosperity of the 1920s created a sense of optimism across the country. Businesses expanded, stock prices soared, and many Americans believed the economy would continue growing forever. However, That optimism came to a sudden end in October 1929, when the stock market crashed. The collapse triggered the Great Depression, the worst economic crisis in American history. Banks failed, businesses closed, and millions of people lost their jobs. Families struggled to afford food and shelter, while long lines formed outside soup kitchens. The crisis affected nearly every part of American society. In response, President Franklin D. Roosevelt introduced the New Deal, a series of government programs designed to create jobs, rebuild the economy, and restore public confidence. Although recovery took time, these reforms helped stabilize the nation during one of its darkest periods. Just as the economy began to recover, another global conflict emerged. World War II broke out in Europe in 1939. The United States initially remained outside the fighting, but everything changed on December 7, 1941, when Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The attack shocked the nation and led America to officially enter the war. American factories shifted to wartime production, manufacturing ships, aircraft, tanks, and weapons on an unprecedented scale. Millions of men joined the military, while women entered the workforce in record numbers to support the war effort. American forces fought in Europe, North Africa, and the Pacific, working alongside Allied nations to defeat Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Imperial Japan. In 1945, World War II came to an end. The Allied victory reshaped the world, and the United States emerged stronger than ever before. With its powerful economy, advanced military, and growing international influence, America entered a new era as one of the world's two leading superpowers. The decades that followed would bring technological breakthroughs, space exploration, civil rights movements, and new global challenges that would continue to shape the nation's future. After the end of World War II, the United States entered a new chapter in its history. Together with the Soviet Union, it became one of the world's two superpowers. Although the two nations never fought each other directly, they competed for global influence in what became known as the Cold War. This rivalry lasted for decades and shaped international politics, military strategy, science, and technology. One of the most important competitions of the Cold War was the space race. The United States invested heavily in space exploration through NASA. On July 20, 1969, millions of people around the world watched as Apollo 11 successfully landed on the Moon. Neil Armstrong became the first human to walk on the lunar surface, delivering the famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." The achievement became a symbol of American innovation and determination. While America celebrated success in space, many citizens were still fighting for equality at home. During the 1950s and 1960s, the civil rights movement challenged racial segregation and discrimination. Leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. inspired millions through peaceful protests and powerful speeches calling for justice and equal rights. Their efforts led to historic laws that helped end legal segregation and expanded civil rights for all Americans. In the following decades, the United States experienced rapid technological progress. Personal computers became common in homes and businesses. The Internet connected people across the globe, changing communication, education, entertainment, and commerce forever. American companies such as Microsoft, Apple, Google, and Amazon became global technology leaders, helping drive the digital revolution. On September 11, 2001, the United States faced one of the darkest days in its history. Terrorists hijacked 4 passenger airplanes, crashing 2 into the World Trade Center in New York City and 1 into the Pentagon near Washington, D.C. Nearly 3,000 people lost their lives. The attacks shocked the world and led to major changes in national security, foreign policy, and international cooperation against terrorism. Despite economic crises, political divisions, and global challenges, the United States has remained one of the world's most influential nations. Its economy is among the largest on Earth. Its universities lead in research and innovation, and its culture, music, films, and technology continue to shape societies around the globe. Today, America is home to more than 340 million people from countless cultural and ethnic backgrounds. It remains a nation built by generations of immigrants, innovators, workers, and dreamers. Its history includes moments of extraordinary achievement, as well as periods of struggle and conflict. Together, these experiences have shaped the country into what it is today, from the ancient civilizations of Native Americans to the birth of a new republic, from the fight for independence to the Civil War, from industrial growth to world leadership, and from the moon landing to the digital age. The story of the United States is one of constant change, resilience, and ambition. The history of America is still being written. Every new generation contributes another chapter to a nation that continues to influence the future of the world. Whether through science, technology, democracy, or culture, the United States remains one of the most significant countries in modern history, and its journey is far from over. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary and found it informative, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more history documentaries. We'll see you again in the next journey through history. Until then, take care.